Welcome to Cripple Fix It. This is a strange video. Well, you may think it's no stranger than the others, but this one is the repair of the starter motor and inner tube on a lawnmower, a Husqvarna lawnmower, sit-on lawnmower, of which the video of the actual, I couldn't do it, of actually repairing it, didn't work out. And I'm glad I didn't video it, because as it was dark when I finished and I was completely ruined. It's now the next day and I'm still ruined. There's no part of my body which doesn't ache, other than maybe my nose. My nose is all right. But I'll go through some bits which may be useful to you if you're going to do it. The starter motor is on the engine used is a Briggs and Stratton 14 horsepower twin, and it's used on loads of different ride-on mowers. So the starter motors are very similar, all the same. Now I diagnosed it. Oh Christ! I've got the starter motor here, the old one. I diagnosed it. Its span, if you turn the key, its span wasn't engaging with the ring gear. They are the most horrendous design, which I find most strange, because they're very similar to the very old car starters, which instead of having a solenoid which throws the gear up and then turns the motor, it does it all in one. Spins, that throws the gear up, it engages with the ring gear and turns the motor, in theory. But of course what happens is the motor's fine, the actual spinning of the motor, but what fails every single time is the ring gear, or the mechanism that throws it up. This is the starter, and it's mounted on this one. It's mounted on the right hand side of, I don't want to get covered in motor today. It's mounted on the right hand side of the engine, like that. And this is the ring gear, which, as you can see, it still looks pretty new because it's only 3 years old. What happens is it starts spinning, and throws it up, supposedly, and engages with the ring gear. But this is all wobbly. So I could see when it was installed, you turned it over and it was just making a horrendous noise, because this was skipping on the ring gear, because it's lost its everything. It's not even connected to the motor anymore, I don't believe. Or it might be. But you can see, hopefully, how wobbly it is. Well, I've kept the motor because I may just be able to buy the ring gear and replace that. Oh, sorry, not the ring gear, the cog here and the throw up mechanism, and replace that, because the motor's still going. The motor only has one connection here, which is the power, which is provided from a solenoid which is next to the battery under the seat. Right, there's a couple of things to you can diagnose this by someone starting it. Have a look at the starter motor and you'll see the ring gear throws up a little bit, or maybe not. You may see all the cogs, this cog has half stripped, which the last one did, because that was a nylon one. This is a metal one, which I thought, oh, that's good, that'll last, but it hasn't. It's not stripped, but the rest of it, there's too much plastic involved in it, for starters. Anyway, it's a hopeless design. Right, so you start, when you're replacing, there's a little metal shroud which covers just that cog so you can't see it properly. Just undo one side of that and spin it out of the way. You can then see these two bolts. So only 2 bolts which hold it on. The left hand one, easy. The right hand one, they very cleverly, as you see, put behind the cog. So you can't get to it with a spanner. The only way you can get to it is with a 1/2 inch drive. 13mm or 1/2 inch is what I use because I haven't got a 13mm in my 1/2 inch drives. With a socket, or wobbly sockets, which give you a little bit of angle. You can come in at this sort of angle, wonky angle, past the cog, and just about get it out. So that went all right, got it out, put it back, new one back in, and it works fine. Started it. That took about half an hour. So, and what you need to do really is move the oil filler, that dipstick, that's two 10mm bolts, and it pulls out. Get that out of the way, and then you can get to this bolt easy enough. That bolt, like I say, you're going to struggle with, but take my word for it, use a 1/2 inch or smaller if you can get enough purchase on the drive. And you'll get that out. I didn't disconnect the battery because it's not a lot of point unless someone comes along and starts it, because there's no live to it all the time like you get with other starters. I just pulled it out of the way and made sure it wasn't touching anything, but it wasn't live anyway. It's only live when you crank it, like I said, from the solenoid. But horrendous. I mean, these were in cars, 1960s. And then they moved to the solenoid, which throws this thing up and then spins, which saves the ring gear and works. I'm sure new mowers have it, but this one don't. So anyway, that job went all right. Quite easy. Like I said, it took me about half an hour, done. And I did that job first because I thought that one was going to be the bugger. Turns out it wasn't. The inner tube. Now the tyres were tubeless tyres. It was a front tyre. I've done both back ones with inner tubes, and they work fine. They both had no tube in already because it was a tubeless, like I said. But on an old mower like this, and this is a 1995, the wheels are going to be rusty. It's just not worth trying to bung a tyre on, and they're expensive. So just buy an inner tube, save yourself a whole load of grief. But when they give you the option of straight valve or bent valve, I never had that option with the back one. The front ones, they said straight valve or bent valve, and I thought, well, what the hell difference does that make? Can't make any difference, can it? Turns out it does. So I got bent valve. So I got the wheel off. The wheel takes literally a minute to take off. It was a circlip, and the wheel fell off. Getting the tyre off was a game. Invest in some tyre levers, not car ones, but somewhere in between car ones and bicycle ones. All I had was bicycle ones and a screwdriver. The screwdriver was actually more effective than the bicycle one. So, anyway, I struggled like hell to get the tyre off the bead, but I managed in the end by standing on it. Got someone else to stand on it. Popped that off. Then I popped the tyre off the wheel with using the levers off one side. Didn't bother taking it all the way off. Popped the inner tube in. Oh, it's all going okay. Put the tyre back on. Still daylight at this point. Started pumping it up. And it pumped up. I pumped up to about 20 psi. And the more the tyre progressed with pressure, the further the valve disappeared into the hole until it wanted to disappear completely. And in fact did. Obviously I'm not too chuffed at this point. This is going on. This is going on too long now. I'm starting to fade. I've got up and down too many times because I put my tools away after the starter motor, away from around me. I'm sitting on the floor like a Buddha, cross-legged, which I'm fine doing that. I had my tools there, but I put my tools away because I thought all I'm going to need is my trusty screwdriver and a tyre lever. Definitely invest in some foot long, maybe half-inch wide tyre levers. You will not regret doing that, because I regretted using a screwdriver and a bicycle tyre lever. Because although it's only a mower, they're pretty much on there like car tyres. And oh God, it was awful. I mean, I'm really struggling today. So anyway, I pump it up and this thing disappeared, and then it was so tight pulling them up, I couldn't get the pump off. I thought, this is no good, so I ended up using grips on the pump, which was a screw-in car pump, power from the car, just a little one. Got that off, ruined the pump. And then I realised the difference between the bent valve and the straight valve is if your tyre, if you look at the tyre and where the valve comes out, before you even start, before you even order anything, if your valve comes out like that, out of a hole that's drilled in the side, and it comes out straight, get the straight one, not the bent one. If your tyre has a hole in the what's the word for it? If you down that way, so coming out in the same direction as the tyre is, so that way, and then in the rim comes out that way, the valve, then the bent one comes out and goes like that. So what I had to do was I took it all apart again, got the tyre off again using my bicycle tyre levers. I was struggling now, really struggling. Got it out, drilled a hole, 8mm or 10mm hole, down through the wheel, near the one that we should have used, but that way rather than that way. See what I mean? So out. Did that, put it back together, threaded the valve through that, and then of course the bent bit then comes out and points outwards. Put the tyre back on, pumped it up, fine. So there's a big learning experience there. Make sure you buy the right valve, bent or straight. I should have got straight, but I got bent. So now the wheel can take both, because I've adapted it by drilling a hole. But as I was drilling the hole, my battery drill died. And it didn't just die with the battery, it died on the chuck. The chuck started slipping. So I found an old drill, plug-in drill, and that did the trick. I broke drill bits. It was just a mess, an absolute. It's one of those jobs you think, well, the starter motor could have been a pig. The inner tube could have been easy, but it's the classic thing where all the easy jobs end up taking hours and hours. The difficult job, easy, done. So just bear that in mind when ordering, because you don't want to go through that. And it was pitch black by the time I finished. But of course the starter motor, the way I'd done it round with the starter motor first was great, because then I had a working mower. But of course it was then jacked up outside with 3 wheels. So I couldn't even push it back and say, sorry, I'll do that another day. I've had enough. Because like an idiot, I thought that the inner tube would be an easy job, but it wasn't. But I had no idea that a bent or in a straight. See, the difference is a straight valve is mounted on the inner tube in a different position, whereas the bent one's mounted right at the bottom. If you blew it up so it was like a donut, it would be right at the bottom of the inside, pointing down. So it's bent so it comes out for you to fill it. Video cut off again at 17 minutes. There's got to be something in it. 17 minutes, bang on, cuts off. So anyway, I didn't video any of it, but please take note of what I learned. Hopefully you'll only have a starter motor job. But don't bother with the inner tubes are normally alright. I did both back tyres. And they save a whole lot of grief because you just shove an inner tube in there. Check the tyre for anything poking through, like a thorn or a nail or something. If it's clear, throw the tube in, pump it up, done. As long as you've got the right valve, straight or bent. And I can't describe it any better than that. Oh, maybe I can. Hold on. Went in the storage area of my office where I bought 2 tubes for the other side because that's the only tyre left on there without a tube. Right. That is the bent one, and as you see, it's right at the bottom of the inside. So when you drill a hole in the wheel, it comes straight out. You have to wiggle it a bit, and then it comes through the new hole and points to the outside. Make sure you get it around the right way, otherwise it's going to be pointing to the inside. hell of a job to get air in then. So if you're talking about the right wheel, for instance, wants to be shove it in there like that. Now I'm assuming a straight one will come out here, just straight, in which case it would have lined up with the original hole and I wouldn't have been still sitting there in the dark at 5 o'clock wanting to cry at this point, to be fair. But I carried on like a soldier and finished here. That smells. I don't like rubber. So please take note of those two things. It may save you a whole heap of trouble, and you may be able to move the next day. Oh no, I'm not. I don't feel good today at all. I feel like I've run a blooming marathon. All my muscles, but I'm fighting with the tyre, you see, with them pogsy levers. If you will save yourself so much grief. I'm sure you're probably on eBay getting for not a lot of money, 10 quid at most, I would have thought. Tyre lever about that long, 30 centimetres, 25 centimetres. It will, bosh, I could have done it in no time. And in fact, if I do another one, first thing I'm going to do is buy tyre levers. But you know it's one of those tools that you're going to put in the toolbox, use once in a blue moon, once, 5 years maybe, then never use them. Because I'll never do a car tyre, I'll take it to the car shop, which is, to be fair, what you should have done with the lawnmower. But they probably would have not been interested because it wouldn't seal on the bead. And that's probably where it was leaking from. It wasn't leaking fast, but every week it would have to be topped up because the rim was crusty, and the valve was probably leaking as well. Just not worth bothering with. Shove one of them in. Just make sure you're not a complete idiot like me and you buy the right one. Whether yours is bent or straight, if you get a bent one and you had a straight one, drill a hole in the wheel straight away and you won't have any trouble. You should be able to work out where you need to drill the hole. It's right near the normal one comes out, I can't do it with my fingers, straight, and you need to drill a hole down there. So that threads through and comes out like that. So you can feel the air. If the lawnmower's over this side, you can feel the air here easily. But I've now broken the pump because I mullered the end. I was getting stressy at this point. I mullered the end with my grips. I just had enough. So that was my exciting. So in the future I've got to get a new chuck for my drill. So I'll do a replacement. I've never changed a chuck on my drills before, but it's an expensive one. I don't want to buy the whole thing, a couple of £100. I'd rather buy a chuck for 20 quid. And the drill will probably be alright again for another 5 years or so. And I was hoping to do my computer this weekend, but I'm going to put that off as well for a bit because I need to have my head and my body working properly. Because as I said, it's my work computer, and if I messed it up, I can't get stressy with it and push it to one side because I'll know what'll happen. The next day I'll get a load of work in and I'll have to say, sorry, I'll mark my computer up. Not very professional, is it? Which is, again, is a recurring theme. Right, well, I'll say cheerio for now. See see you next time, and hopefully I'll have a video of what I was doing. But to be fair, there wasn't a lot of point, because all it was swearing, throwing tools around, and just generally getting annoyed at myself because I hadn't checked. Not that I knew. Straight valve, bent valve, I just thought, well, bent one will be handy. Turns out it didn't. I mean, if you could have seen me pumping it out, and the bloody thing's just going back in. It's like someone's dragging it back in the hole. And then it went in altogether, and I tried to pull it out with, oh, Christ. It was laughable. But not for me. I probably should have recorded some of it for for example, but I'd rather give you the information of what went wrong so you can avoid it yourself. Anyone, to be fair, you don't have to be physically impaired like me to make the same mistake. You'll still have a bad day regardless, because I was sitting on the floor most of it. But the top half of my body, the pressure I was putting on everything, just alleviate that from your life by buying some tyre levers. Because, take it from me, bicycle ones are not man enough. Even though you think, oh, it's only a lawnmower. It's only a lawnmower with tyres that are like car tyres. I mean, the back ones are wider than car tyres. They're like a foot wide. But I didn't have any problem with them. That was before my stroke. But I can't think that was that much to do with it. The only thing that having a stroke has done is my patience level is much shorter. And I get annoyed with myself for not buying equipment to help me. Tip for the day: buy equipment to help yourself. Because the other problem with screwdrivers, of course, is you could actually put a hole in the inner tube whilst putting it back together, which again, you're not going to have a good day with that, are you? You're going to pump it up and go, well, why isn't it pumping up? Because you stabbed the head out of it, putting the wheel back on, tyre back on. Anyway, that's my Cripple Fix It tips for the day. Cheerio.